Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, regardless where you're coming from. Thank you for finding some time to go over this presentation detailing the high-level view of one of Google's most interesting technologies around security called Google SecOps. This presentation is often presented live. However, we've had a number of situations where customers have asked us that they cannot attend and they would wish to actually watch this on mediums such as YouTube, which is where this presentation is being focused on. The focus is really around Google SecOps and understanding how this product differentiates itself with the various other platforms that are out in the marketplace. Today we'll be covering the threat landscape, security perspective relative to Google and Dido, key solutions, how we deliver to our customers, and really get into the depths of proven outcomes. What are some of the good stories to tell in terms of how Google SecOps differentiates itself from the marketplace? So first and foremost, why are we here? And this particular presentation is going to be focused primarily on the US public sector, but the reality is we're all under the same threat. There are many entities, and the amount of attacks that are taking place within the United States and the various entities is only growing. The threat is real. We have adversaries that can range from script kiddies, people just hacking to experience what does that look like, to government actors who literally want to get into your environment, not necessarily to disrupt it, although that's one aspect of it, using things like ransomware and extract money out of it, but sometimes just even the opportunity to get in there and take control of your systems when the time comes that they feel that the need to do something to disrupt the United States. And if you look at the types of threat actors that are out there, they're all over the place. There's not just one type of threat actor you have to worry about. And so as a result, a security approach in posture is really to be able to look at a holistic way of addressing your security profile, your security posture to address the threats across the board. There is no one technical solution that will magically make all of these problems go away. And part of the challenge right now is that as the level of threats are actually increasing, the ability to have resources and the ability to take intelligence and turning them into action is actually shrinking. The amount of noise, the ability to actually deal with the situations at hand, being able to get actionable response to the situation at hand is actually a big challenge. So we want to highlight that this is not an easy solution in the marketplace. Organizations have all adapted different strategies to deal with this. However, we just wanted to highlight the fact that this is not unique to any organization. Every organization is experiencing this challenge, and why we're excited to discuss Google SecOps as a potential part of a larger answer to your problem. So we wanted to get into the whole conversation, who is Google? We all know who Google is, but do we really know what Google is from a security perspective? And really wanted to highlight the fact that Google is involved in most aspects of IT, everything from Android phones to the Chrome browser to various aspects that, how people search and use the internet is all involving in some flavor or another Google technologies. And the reality is Google is not shy or is not unaware of what's out there in the ecosystem from a threat perspective. Google Cloud specifically, and many of the Google services around it are all aligned to cybersecurity frameworks such as NIST. I wanted to highlight this, because the reality is we want to have a common language, a common framework to discuss security and where does technologies like Google SecOps fit into the overall visibility into your solution space. Specifically, we will be focused around detect and respond. However, be aware of the fact that other Google technologies can be used to help streamline and manage your entire aspect towards a cybersecurity framework such as NIST. Now, this is really important. Google is unique in its ability to see, from a visibility perspective, all the threats that are out there. It's been around over 20 years. It has investigated many threats in its ecosystem. And part of the lineage associated to Google SecOps comes from the fact that the Chinese, as part of Project Aurora, hacked Google while Google was following the industry best practices. And this just really kind of highlighted the fact that the threats are evolving faster than some of the technologies that were available to address them. And Google SecOps, which was formerly called Chronicle, was a direct response to the fact of what happened to Google and recognizing that the old ways of monitoring and addressing your security concerns really don't work as well as they should. Who is Dido? Dido's been a premier Google partner for the last 17 years, literally since Google Apps came out, is one of the original 5 partners. And in the last 5 to 6 years, Dido has been highly focused around Google Cloud and hyper-focused around security. Our goal is to help enable our customers in their journey into cloud, but really with a security-first foundation. So although we do, as many other partners, services around Google Cloud, our approach is really making sure that organizations are compliant to their own standards, to their own policies, and also to the regulatory policies that they need to be governed under. And we help with the challenges associated with that. These are some of our public sector customers. We're just highlighting the fact that Google is much better known in the marketplace than Dido, but we are not novices in this ecosystem. We have many customers in public sector and the commercial marketplace. One of the key differentiators, though, for Dido is our vision. And we really do believe that organizations need to develop a cyber resiliency and security culture. And this is how we approach everything we do. It's not just about enabling the technology, but really understanding that that technology has to fit the structure, the process, and the people that an organization has. And we need to really help drive that culture to achieve those organizational outcomes. Strategy, does not work in the absence of a culture. You need to help drive that culture in the appropriate way. And why this is an important topic, and what is one of the main reasons that differentiates Dido from other vendors or partners in the ecosystem, is we recognize the fact that every engagement is unique. It's not just, hey, give me a SKU, sell me this product, and I'm going to make this work automatically. This is where some of the main challenges take place. And the other thing that I want to highlight the fact is that when you think about security, when you think about the tooling around security, the areas of capabilities, what Google brings to the table of the conversation is 20 years of driving business intelligence and analytics, data. So looking at telemetry of logs and telemetry of alerts coming into your environment and solving it as a data problem. Why is this relevant? Is because Google is a leader in data management. It's a leader in AI. It's a leader in all those particular aspects that drive the ability of organizations to monitor and affect culture. So we wanted to highlight the fact that if you think about what is a SIEM, and it's not just I'm collecting logs and events into a system and triggering alerts. It's really it's a monitoring tool and a dashboard of what's happening in your environment, and the ability to trigger a feedback loop and drive behavior into your organization is what has to be key for success. This is an area where I would say newbies or individuals who are not familiar with how to build a proper security apparatus or organization have to focus on the fact that it is not just I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, buy some product, and then magically I'm secure. You have to focus on the entire environment to make sure that not only are the tools integrated, but the people, the processes, and the structures are adequate and they're designed for your environment. And this is really a unique characteristic for Dido. One of the first things we ask is, please share with me your organizational policies. We want to ensure that the solution we bring to you not only adheres and adapts to your standards and policies, but really helps drive those organizational goals and your organizational strategy so that you can get the outcomes you're looking for. One of the key aspects of this, and again, this is how Dido has allowed itself to differentiate itself in the marketplace, is that we're looking at cybersecurity through the frame of 4 pillars. First is the organizational IT. Every organization has some IT, even if it's 2 to 3 people running the day-to-day of your servers, handing out laptops. Everybody has an organizational IT. Now, what's important is to understand what are your policies, what are you allowing your employees to do, and what are you not allowing your employees to do, and how are you enforcing that? So this is an important aspect of every organization. It doesn't just involve security, it involves your entire IT organization because they're the ones who operate your environment. Everything from maintenance windows to resiliency, do I have backups in a different region? These are all aspects of organizational IT that are tying into security because of the CIA triad, right? Availability is an important aspect of that. Security folks are always involved, and this is what we refer to as a foundational security layer of IT. Having those assets, those standards in an organization is key. But then it kind of evolves to this idea of actually having a security operations team. Who are the individuals running your security on your IT? And this involves everything from network security, the appliances, security appliances or network appliances that you have in your environment. How are you allowing traffic to run through it? Where are your, what is your attack vector from the outside? How is the internet connected to your on-prem? What are you doing from securing this? So again, these are conversation pieces that Dido has in a discovery call with her customers to understand what are they doing to protect their IT assets and how are they managing that. And again, things like NIST 853 and that cybersecurity framework or ISO, they're all great starting points to help basically build a cybersecurity resilient organization. Where SecOps comes into the picture is this idea of monitoring and alerting, right? How am I detecting what's happening in my environment and how am I responding to threats that are occurring in my environment? And this is where Google SecOps plays a key critical role. Obviously, there are other SIEMs and SOARs available in the environment, but it is our belief that Google has differentiated themselves significantly from the other vendors in the marketplace. One of the key aspects, and we're not going to touch on this tremendously, but is really about, is understanding some of the advanced services Google also brings to the table. One of them being is Google Threat Intelligence. It's the feed of what is actually happening in the market, what is actually happening out there in the ecosystem that can directly take this data and turn it into actionable intelligence. Knowing that, there are bad actors in North Korea or in China or in Iran doesn't do you any good if you don't know what are the patterns of attack that they do and understand what are the types of remediations you can do when those patterns are detected in your environment. And just wanted to highlight the fact that Google SecOps has direct integrations with Google Threat Intelligence. In fact, their Enterprise Plus package includes it. But just wanted to highlight the fact that this is a very useful technology that that is provided by Google, and it's an extension of their Mandiant purchase. The Google Threat Intelligence is a combination of Mandiant, Threat Intel, VirusTotal, amongst other technologies brought in to give you that visibility into what is out there and how it directly impacts your feeds, your data. Like what's happening in your environment needs to be enriched and correlated to what the threat ecosystem is. And finally, and this is an area which we will not cover much, but I wanted to highlight the fact that this is really important, is incident response. Most organizations have their own teams that handle incident response. However, when some circumstances occur that go above your technical capability to address those incidents, having an organization such as Mandiant on call to help respond to an incident is something that should be considered. So this is an area where Dido does not, once you're in the middle of a ransomware, we're not the ones coming in here to fix it for you. Google offers a service, and we're happy to help facilitate that in your holistic view of addressing your cybersecurity culture and approach in your posture to address with the pillars that we were mentioning here. So we kind of covered the solutions: Google SecOps, Google Threat Intelligence, and incident response as a retainer to bring in Mandiant in the event that something happens that goes above and beyond your ability to respond. Now, going into Google SecOps, because this is really what most people are here for and wanting to understand what's happening. We're living in a world where there's just tons of data, too much data for most to handle. And the ability to directly identify what data is actionable and useful versus data that is just day-to-day noise is really key. And this is really this idea of being able to have a hyperscale platform such as Google to process and basically enrich the information that is coming in from your environment to scale, to be able to handle that type of load of information coming in, and then immediately coming out with intelligent driven alerts or basically actions that you have to respond to. As an example is, if you have, let's say, a university, and the university offers courses for international students, and you notice that a student is logging into your environment from China, that may be perfectly legitimate, no issues. However, if you have someone logging in with the credentials of an administrator, well, that might become problematic. So being able to create those customized alerts into your environment by having not only the awareness of who's coming into your environment based on logs, but also understanding, well, what is that user and the geolocation they're coming from. Being able to do intelligent driven outcomes is really key to providing a secure foundation for your environment. And then finally, being able to correlate and actually look at things from an AI perspective, where patterns and other characteristics of what's happening, or having an AI automate workflows for you to be able to help facilitate your engineers, to elevate them from solving problems rather than doing investigative work, where a robot or a computer can do a much better job for you than you doing this yourself. This is the approach that Google is bringing to the marketplace to really kind of elevate your team's ability to address problems. So looking at this holistically, this is a unified threat, Intel-led, and AI-driven platform to detect, investigate, and respond to your environment. It's built on a foundation where Gemini, and SecOps is provided as part of the platform. Your threat intels are directly enriched into the data feeds that are coming in. And you have a hyperscale cloud infrastructure that is allowing you to respond in a very timely manner and not provide a window of opportunity for an incident to escalate because somebody found an attack vector and has successfully taken advantage of. In those circumstances, time matters, and the sooner you're able to detect a situation, the sooner you're able to respond to it and mitigate the types of risks that may manifest as a consequence of that. So let's take a look at detect. The reality is you want to be able to detect more threats with less effort and be able to be actionable with it. And so out of the box, Google comes with a holistic set of curated, pre-built detection rules that allow you to automatically just, hey, enable these and forget about it. And it's usually the fastest way to get yourself set up in an environment, be it AWS, Azure, Google, on-prem. It's really not that, it doesn't really matter where you're coming from. Being able to automatically, very quickly be able to set yourself up and then be actionable is key to a platform. And so this is what these curated detections really, make up that environment. And so if you follow the 80-20 rule, 80% of the work can be set up very quickly within the Google SecOps platform. The last 20 obviously is customized, and this is where customizations and things take a little longer. But we really want to highlight the fact that you want to be able to take advantage of the curated rules that have already been built by Google for specific environments, for specific frameworks. One of the capabilities around this is also tying back to the Mitri attack vector, and there are curated rules that are associated with that as well, so that you can protect your environment with direct visibility of how your rules align with known frameworks such as those. So just wanted to kind of highlight the fact that there's a broad detection coverage, everything from cloud to endpoint security to managing and emerging threats. These are all available to you out of the box, and something that we strongly encourage our customers to enable during their implementation phase or proof of concept or pilot. Again, really allows you to get to that, let's just say, minimally viable state as quickly as possible. So the other aspect we want to highlight, and again, this is not unique to Google. There's a lot of platforms that have this idea of risk-centric alerting, the idea of being able to identify the risks that are highest so that your SOC analyst can really focus on the areas that matter the most. And this risk scoring helps prioritize your team to focus on areas where actions are necessary as quickly as possible. This leads into the whole investigate stage, which is, really important, right? We really want to work threats and not alerts. So the idea is, by understanding where are the threats, what needs the most response, the focus should be on the work associated with reducing the threats in your environment and helping mitigate the risk associated to your environment. So the technologies is really about being able to see the big picture, find the right answer quickly, and then streamline the operations in your environment to be as effective as possible. Now, this obviously requires, technologies that are available right out of the box within SecOps, but oftentimes it also requires integration with existing technologies within your organization. And Google SecOps has that ability to provide those integrations so that this becomes part of your ecosystem, not, once you go SecOps, it means the other tools don't exist. It's not the way organizations build themselves or apply their environments. Then finally, there's respond, right? The idea of being like, what do I do? Something happened, I got an alert. And the key is really to automate as much of this as possible, right? You want to use orchestration tools. You want to go in and disable, like back to the use case of I had a administrator who logged in through China. Well, you may want to just, maybe an email is sufficient, but in most cases, given the fact that it's a elevated privileged individual, the right solution would be to go to AD, Active Directory, and disable the user account. And you want to be able to automate as many of these activities as possible with a human in the loop, obviously. But the idea here is it's all about threat mitigation and being able to effectively build these workflows where standards are enforced. The workflow itself is a software product, so it's like handle it as infrastructure as code, and make sure you have version controlling and management. So this is a way of enforcing standardization around your governance, around your processes for handling situations. And so we help our customers build these automations and these precise responses to their specific requirements. And like I said, every organization is different, needs to handle things in a slightly different way, but the tools allow for that customization and to quickly make the process yours. Finally, we want to highlight the fact that Mandiant does offer expert help, and it's really about upping your cybersecurity posture in your game. How do you respond to that? Not key to this particular presentation, but really key to the overall posture management to your environment. And so we wanted to kind of highlight the fact that this is part of the overall foundation around Google SecOps. Finally, but not, really kind of as an important aspect is Gen AI. Whether you like it or not, people are using generative AI in your environment, whether it's shadow IT or embedded or embraced by your IT organization. It's being used because it works. Now, does it work as well as we would like to? Probably not. But we wanted to kind of highlight the fact that Gen AI does streamline workflows and improve overall operations, including security operations, all around investigation, detection, response, and threat hunting. It is also helpful in building rules, building playbooks, accelerating your team's ability to turn customizations into embedded processes without necessarily even having the skills that were required in the past. One of the things that we're seeing in the marketplace is that AI is being used to replace developers. We don't need people to code things as much as we had in the past. We can simply say, hey, write me the rule that does the following, and the AI will generate it for you. Or sometimes we have Splunk customers who have rules that they've written in the Splunk model, and the AI will read the Splunk approach, translate what it's doing into English, and then use the English like what it was doing, and then convert it into YARA-L, which is the SecOps language, to generate rules into the environment. And having an AI as an assistant is proving to be absolutely critical in allowing organizations to up their game and scale. Applied threat intelligence is a key aspect of what Google SecOps brings to the table. And I wanted to highlight this because GTI, Google Threat Intelligence, is part of the solution available in the Enterprise Plus capability. However, be aware that organizations use vendors such as Anomaly and others, so there are threat feeds that are available from other third-party vendors, and you can integrate them into Google SecOps and build that into your overall environment. just highlighting the fact that Google Threat Intelligence is a combination of Mandiant, VirusTotal, and Google Threat Insights merged into one and directly integrated into your Google SecOps environment. And it really has that key aspect of not only being useful data, but also clean data. And what does that mean? By having proper threat feeds, it eliminates the noise and it eliminates a lot of false positives. So we at Dido have helped integrate a number of third-party threat feeds into SecOps, and they do work, and they are very valid. However, we just want to highlight the fact that we do see a lot of false positives that take up time from your SOC analysts, and by having cleaner feeds, you're able to be more effective in your use of time and energy. And then finally, and just want to highlight this, is the hyperscale of your cloud infrastructure. Obviously, Google SecOps is not the only cloud-based SIEM SOAR environment, but the reality is these on-prem solutions just don't scale anymore, and they're not able to adapt to the types of technologies such as AI and the workflow automations that are available in technologies like Google SecOps. So this drive towards going to cloud is happening in the marketplace. This is not going away. The reality is even vendors such as Splunk are migrating customers from on-prem to their cloud solutions where possible. Please be aware they're not the same solutions. So there is some migration necessary in that particular practice. And the other aspect too is the capabilities of what you get out of the box within Google is different than you will get from other vendors in the marketplace. But being able to scale so that small organizations and absolutely massive organizations could all take advantage of the same platform is key. And this is one of the aspects that Google brings to bear. Its ability to search your logs, your data at hyperscale is very, very unique to Google. And we really wanted to highlight this, and we will kind of get into that a little later. But this is a key differentiating aspect of Google. It's able to look through your logs and the translated aspect of the logs. So you have your raw logs, and then you have what they refer to as UDM, which is a universal data model that they create of your information, your data, so that it can correlate all your logs together to have a visibility of what's happening in your environment in a unique way. So again, many of the concepts that Google brings with Google SecOps, you will see pieces of these solutions in other vendor platforms, but the unique, capability that Google brings and the way it's set everything up allows for that scale that is, I have not seen any other SIEM SOAR platform bring to market as of yet. So just really wanted to highlight the fact that, the scalability and then the context-rich data management is really the key differentiator here. Is not only is it reading and processing all of your logs, but being able to parse through them and enrich the data to make it contextually aware is the key driver here within Google SecOps. Now, you've got this great product, but how do I get into my environment? Obviously, a platform like Google SecOps is not a one-year decision, and I'm going to buy this product and it's going to replace my current or a new environment into a new SOC for my organization. Making an investment like Google SecOps usually is a journey. And this is the same as moving to cloud or transforming your organization one way or another. It's a long-term investment. And so we recognize this is not something you can just do, out of the blue and say, I'm going to try it. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. And so we recognize that there's a lot of data. There's a lot of data feeds that need to be brought into the environment and managed on your behalf. And that data is part of what we do in terms of our enablement. So Google recommends organizations work with a partner like Dido or a professional services organization within Google, but somebody to kind of handhold you through the process of enabling all the logs and bringing them into the Google platform, but then enabling the platform to meet your specific needs. And, because again, there's certain key aspects of the technology that should be enabled properly and make it work for you. So we kind of look at this as the Google SecOps life cycle of event logs, right? The flow, how everything kind of comes into the environment. And so everything comes from your log sources to the ingestion mechanism by which they come into your environment. And then there's the parsing, right? Like Google comes in, reads the information, and then converts it into its own format. But then to us, the magic happens in the enrichment. Back to I knew that this user coming in from China was a administrator. He was a privileged user. That is the key to making this solution superior to others. The ability of reading an IP address and then knowing everything there is to know about that IP address and knowing, is it a threat actor? Has this been compromised somewhere? Being able to very quickly, as the data comes in, and even after that, to be able to identify and enrich the data as it comes into your environment. And then based on that, to create a number of detections that says, hey, this information is actionable. This information is leading me to identify that this user and in this situation is not a good situation. Therefore, I should generate an alert. And then, of course, the alert goes in and then gets sent somewhere else. Obviously, Google has their SOAR platform, which allows you to create an automated response to various alerts coming into your environment, and then also additional investigation and so forth in terms of case management. But this is sort of the life cycle of a log. But every aspect of it has additional capabilities thrown in. So detections, AI comes into the picture, brings in summary information. The idea is we want to keep the analyst away from having to go to the various sources of truth to investigate and then bring the sources of truth to you, which you can then verify and validate, which is, again, absolutely key, as LLMs today have proven that they're not always 100% reliable. This AI has been trained for security, for trusting via the RAG model that, hey, if you don't know, don't make it up. Go to the sources of the truth, source the sources of truth, and make sure that this information is brought to the analyst so the right decision is made in the investigation and the response of the alert that comes into your environment. So this kind of leads to the whole, how do I get this into my environment? And so the idea here is you really should be looking at a partner-led pilot. Get an environment into your environment, into your ecosystem for 3 to 4 months so you can kick the tires, verify that it meets your needs, right? This is key. Every engagement is different. The technology needs to fit and be enabled for purpose. And this is where a partner like Dido, we tailor each deployment to meet your specific success criteria. And, it's actually kind of amazing because you would think that similar customers would have similar success criteria. And what we're experiencing is that's not the case. Different organizations have different priorities, and we want to make sure that the platform fits your goals and your priorities. So whether it's a proof of concept, which is, again, very lightweight environment for just verifying if it meets your needs, a pilot, which again is a subset but a working end-to-end implementation, a support engagement where you call us essentially as a support desk when something goes wrong. Because again, we've done this for many customers. We want to highlight the fact that we want to share this knowledge for success to you and be able to quickly help resolve your challenges as they manifest. To a full white glove implementation, we're here to make that a successful engagement. It's actually well known that you can get the best technology, the best tools in the marketplace, but if you don't know how to enable it or how to use it, it doesn't matter. The product tends to fail and cause problems. So we just wanted to kind of highlight that, both Google and, Dido have, this is our experience. We don't just want to sell you a product. We want to enable it. And please be aware that there are opportunities for getting Google to finance much of these enablements, or let's just say the pilots on your behalf to try before you buy type aspects of your environment. We want to highlight some of our big customers, and given the fact that this is for YouTube as an audience, we're not going to share our customer logos directly unless they've given us authority to do so. But we've done these Google SecOps predominantly for the SLED marketplace, which is state, local education. And we want to highlight the fact that all of these customers had very different needs in terms of success criteria. But we went in and built not only a solution that is custom built, but also a support model that was custom built. To date, we work with a particular state's Department of Homeland Security, and we actually run their SOC on behalf of them on the Google SecOps platform to monitor their 360 plus agencies to ensure that their agencies are protected 24/7. And when you realize that at a state level, every agency, they're not standardized in terms of their IT and their capabilities, and Google SecOps is able to achieve that level of sophistication. We really want to highlight also, the various universities. We see a lot of universities that are embracing SecOps because of the fact that, to be honest, universities tend to be one of the most dangerous environments. You have threat actors that are known not only on the outside, but also on the inside. You have universities that have hospitals involved, so you're dealing with HIPAA data and others. And again, this is something we do. Like the states have confidential data, HIPAA data, and CJIS data. And they have different standards associated with that. And so what do? We have worked with the state to build a custom deployment model that allows them to support the various types of classification and requirements around their data to manage a SOC that adheres to these types of standards. And again, one of the reasons why bringing in a partner who has done this before for many states is very effective, because it allows you to not have to reinvent the wheel and follow patterns that have been successful for others. So let's talk about outcomes. And one of them, just recently we're finishing off an engagement for a U.S. state and their central IT organization where they were on Splunk. They felt to be quite happy with Splunk in their organization. However, they were only monitoring their own IT infrastructure for their own environment. And at this point in time, they're looking to grow their IT organization to expand to agencies that are currently not under their direct purview, and wanting to kind of have better visibility over all state agencies. And Google came in with the proof of concept to verify and validate that not only can Google SecOps achieve the same capabilities that they were able to achieve with the prior vendor, but augment that, or basically increase that, so that their current team and staff can do more with the same amount of people that they have by leveraging the AI and the capabilities that are being, directed. And during the POC, during the pilot, what happened was that an incident actually occurred. It's one of the reasons we don't mention the customer name. But Google SecOps was able to identify the attack within 9 minutes of the first event log, while their current tools took 20 hours. And this is kind of important because it allows you to differentiate the difference in terms of how a platform like Google SecOps, with the scale and capabilities, what it really brings to your environment is that speed to identify actionable threats and be able to mitigate and prevent attacks before they're able to get a foothold into your environment. The next story is actually a little more interesting because this was one of our universities. Again, customer shall not be named, but this particular university was a long, decade-long customer of Splunk. They were happy with it. Again, had that view that, hey, this has been working for us. We're well integrated with the platform. However, they received a new CIO, and the new CIO wanted to ask the question, are we using the best tools in the marketplace today? Are we vulnerable? And so they wanted to create an evaluation pilot across multiple vendors and kick the tires to see which one is providing the security posture they need. One, because they were concerned about the pricing of the current vendor, but also because there's a lot of moving parts in the world we live in today. So during the pilot, 2 weeks in, to be honest, the platform was generating crazy alerts within Google SecOps. And initially the client said, oh, no, this is nothing. We're good. But our again, why one of the reasons we were there, we were investigating or helping, read the Google Gemini reports that were saying, no, this is a known threat actor. It was the North Koreans, and they have compromised your DNS server. And sure enough, their own investigation showed that they had an advanced persistent threat in their network for a significant amount of time. We actually, for about 2 to 3 weeks, weren't even talking with them because their lawyers got involved and they shut down the whole conversation. But the reality is, of all the vendors, Google SecOps was the only one that identified the fact that their DNS was potentially sending them to the wrong place. So a DNS compromise is really where it's where your source of truth is for, hey, I don't know where this, if you type in americanexpress.com, you're given an IP address. Well, you're supposed to trust that IP address is the correct IP address. If someone were to change the source of truth and say, hey, if you're going to look for American Express and change that URL and translate it back, or that FQDN, translate it back to an IP address, if I point you to another site that looks like American Express but isn't American Express, you're very likely to type in your username and password to access that credit card location. And again, this is how these threats can be taken advantage of and exploited by your community of users. So obviously the client decided to, that they realized that they weren't as secure as they thought they were. And not having that enrichment, not having that knowledge was key to being able to identify why they were successful in this particular case. Like, this product is able to tell you that this IP that you went to from a DNS standpoint to extract this knowledge into your DNS knowledge base was compromised. And without that overall integrated solution where threat intel feeds are coming into your environment, that could be easily missed. So obviously this customer decided that yes, Google SecOps is a better answer, and it allowed them to scale to the needs that they had, and they selected them as a platform of choice. And then finally, there's a number of reports out there that really kind of go into the whole business value of security operations following the Google platform. The total cost of ownership is dramatically reduced for organizations that are willing to reevaluate their situation and see what's out there in the marketplace. And it is a competitive space. So, we want to recognize the fact that, there's always new players. Google has heavily committed into using, and building out Google SecOps because it is really the methodology and the framework that it uses itself. It recognized that the old paradigm, the old ways of doing things just do not scale, do not allow for that capability to give that whole visibility of your organization and your security posture. And, it built the product it needed for itself, and it feels that the market itself can take advantage of for others. hopefully this presentation was useful and will allow folks to consider Google SecOps as a viable alternative to current or potentially other vendor solutions. And we highly recommend you reach out to us and ask us about how we can help enable this for you in your environment. And again, everything from proof of concepts to pilots. We can definitely work with our partners at Google and help you facilitate the steps needed to have much of this paid for in terms of DAF funding, assuming those are available, and just help facilitate the entire engagement so that you can achieve your organizational successes. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.